6 FM. So, Black Women's Equal Pay Day. Monday was the day when it was said that black women in the States earned the amount of money that their white counterparts earned. It took them that long into the year. And tennis star Serena Williams wrote a very powerful essay calling for equal pay for black women to mark Black Women's Equal Pay Day in the States. And she was quoted in the article saying, "Black women, be fearless. Speak out for equal pay. Every time you do, you're making it a little easier for a woman behind you. Most of all, know that you're worth it. It can take a long time to realize that." Well, I spoke with a leading black female diversity specialist who gave a talk on diversity at Cambridge University this week.
I'm Dr. Miranda Brawn. I think Serena Williams is absolutely right regarding the pay gap that we have existing at the moment for black women. We need change, and when you look at the UK and the US, black women are struggling to overcome pay inequality. And so Monday, as we all know, was Black Women's Equal Pay Day in the States. And the stats do show that the average American man, they could go on holiday for 7 months and still earn the same as a black woman. Now, if you apply that to the UK, and as we're on a BBC radio station, I guess in light of the recent BBC pay gaps, we might as well go there. And there has been a muted response when we look at the Equal Pay Day from black women in the UK. And this has been seen by the reaction to the BBC's recent revelations on the pay, where there has been little attention to the fact that we only have 11 people from a black, Asian and minority ethnic background who are earning more than £150,000. Clearly, when you look at gender is a massive part of diversity, but there are other issues as well that we need to look at, and race is another massive issue. We've got LGBT, we've got age, and so on. So there needs to be more dialogue, and there needs to be more action to amend the fact that we are struggling to close the ethnic and gender pay gap. And there's too much focus on gender. We need to bring that back on the race side as well.
I was going to say, how can that be addressed? Women might feel, black people might feel somewhat intimidated to mention this issue from their particular perspectives for fear of how it will be received by management. How can black women, how can black people raise these issues in a way that isn't seen as rabble-rousing, for want of a different phrase?
You know, there's ways to go about it, and Serena Williams gave some really good advice in her essay where she said to be fearless, speak out for equal pay, and every time you do, you're making it a little easier for someone else. And when you look at the BBC pay gap, lots of the agents and lots of the managers at the BBC, I don't know how true this is, but they were saying that actually, well, the women didn't ask for pay rises. They didn't actually question the pay. It was the men that were actually speaking up and saying, I want more. And I think you can ask for more, and it doesn't have to be in an aggressive way. It can be in a very nice, assertive way. And there's lots of research out at the moment. I mean, you've got the McGregor-Smith, the Parker reviews, CMI have also recently done some research, and you know, there's all these stats now that are showing where only 6% of top management jobs are held by people from a black, Asian and minority ethnic background. But it's important that we go deeper into the companies who now have to give stats in terms of the pay gaps and the difference that they've got from a gender perspective. But I think we need to move that a step forward and encourage companies and encourage managers and leaders to actually start to look at the race gap as well. So there's various ways in terms of how individuals can speak up, but I think it's also up to the organisations, the management and the companies to actually help to close that gap. We can't just say to black women or people of colour or women in general when talking about the gender gap, you are the one that has to raise this issue, it's affecting you. I think we really need the organisations to also become aware of the situation and talk about race. Learn from the gender, because there's so much that has been learnt, and when you look at the 30% Club and all these other issues and organisations that are helping with the gender gap, we need the same applied to the race gap. But it's also a case of having role models and mentors and sponsorships, and I think it's very important that we've got the data and we've got the reports that we can measure, we can manage, and then we can also report.
You've recently given a talk on this issue at a very prestigious educational institution, one of the most famous in the world. What were your closing statements to them in a very brief 20 seconds, please?
So I spoke at the University of Cambridge, and it was pretty much a case of inspiring the next generation of diversity leaders, and that's tied in with my foundation, the Miranda Brawn Diversity Leadership Foundation, where we're also using the next generation of bands to help.
That's Dr. Miranda Brawn talking about the ways black women can address the equal pay issue as marked in America with Equal Pay Day, Monday gone.
The Breakfast